Is the NBA Hall of Fame too easy to get into? There's a lot of players in the Hall of Fame right now that are probably undeserving of it in the eyes of most fans. Right now, I have Riv and JC. They're going to shed light to all of it. So I'm going to start with you, JC.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think the NBA Hall of Fame is way too easy to get into?
Yes. And let me tell you why. This is going to sound crazy, but I mean, a Nets player, Drazen Petrovic, who had honestly a 2-year run where he scored 20 points per game, 22 points per game, was a 2-time All-Star, got in. You know what I mean? I think a lot of the NBA Hall of Fame is judged off your impact rather than your play most of the times. Because there's a lot of guys there's a lot of fringe Hall of Fame guys. Like, you can call Joe Johnson a fringe Hall of Famer. But how are you gonna give the nod to Drazen Petrovic, who's a 2-time All-Star that didn't have better stats, more consistency than Joe Johnson, who was a 7-time All-Star in his career, had a lot of pretty good playoff runs. He was a steady player in his career. You know what I mean? So I really think that the NBA Hall of Fame is a little too easy to get into, and I think a lot of players that should be in there are left out, and I think a lot of players that should not be in there are in there.
What's your take on it, Riv?
I think we have the same answer, but I think we have our different takes on who should realistically be in the Hall of Fame. I've been very, JC knows this, I've been very vocal about the Hall of Fame and how weak it is and how they use college basketball and what you did in high school and what you did overseas as a means to define what you should do in the Hall of Fame. I think if it's the Hall of Fame and everything should be included, then damn near almost every NBA player is going to get in.
But to be fair, is it called the Basketball Hall of Fame
I think
or the
it's
NBA?
called the Naismith Hall. But if you asked us, is the NBA Hall... So, NBA Hall of Fame? Yes, and I'm going to tell you why.
Should Joe Johnson be a Hall of Famer?
No. That was never even... No. I'm going to tell you why. The way I look at it, Hall of Famers, I guess we could go off ballots. Michael Jordan. LeBron James going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Magic Johnson.
Kobe.
Kareem. Guys like that. Now you got Tim Duncan. Look what they all have accomplished. They were at least in one point of their lives the best player on the planet. If not the best player, they were the best player at their position.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least top 3.
Mm-hmm.
James Harden is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Steph Curry is going to be a first ballot. Kevin Durant is going to be a first ballot. Westbrook is going to be a first ballot Hall of Fame. Those are guys who have one point in their lives been the best player on the planet, if not the best player on the planet, the best player in his position. Also, James Harden has an MVP. He has a record, 36 points.
36.1 points per game.
Come on. Westbrook, 3 triple-doubles, a 30-point 10 and 10. Steph Curry, arguably one of the greatest seasons to ever be played. Kevin Durant, 32, 8 and 8. Come on, MVP. These guys are, it's eye test and what you've accomplished. Guys like, I'm sorry,
don't mention it yet. I know what you're gonna say.
Oh,
don't mention it yet.
All right, so I'm gonna wait because I feel like that question is gonna come up. So
Everything that you see on the paper is gonna come.
I'm gonna let you all answer that next question. But yes, I do think the NBA Hall of Fame is way too easy, and we should definitely knuckle it down.
So this is my next question, and this next question is gonna bounce into the next one. So, should production outweigh celebrity or accomplishments? And by that, I mean
stats.
Should stats matter more than a player who might not have the stats, but he has the accomplishments like a championship, all-stars, playoff appearances? So do you think that production should matter more than celebrity?
I absolutely think that production should matter more than celebrity. So far, James Harden hasn't won a championship. And if we put the impact, the side-by-side stats in terms of where he stands amongst the players at his position, every position, he has better stats. The only thing he's missing is a championship. I think that's the most overrated stat, winning championships, because it's a team. It's a team accomplishment. You know what I mean? The Finals MVP is a player accomplishment. But are you going to sit here and knock James Harden, who's one of the best scorers that we've ever seen, pick up the basketball? Are you going to really sit here and say that that his Hall of Fame status shouldn't matter more than someone like Steph Curry because he doesn't have the championships? I think it needs to be strictly weighed in on stats because that's for the players. That's what they do. James Harden has great statistical numbers. Yep. You cannot argue with that.
Boom. My turn, right?
Go ahead.
Let me tell you why that doesn't make sense.
Team sport.
No.
It is.
Stats and this is what I hate with the new young people. Stats in today's game are like steroids. They're basically they're stats on steroids. The game is the freedom of movement. You get a lot more possessions, just fast pace, a lot of threes, straight threes and layups. Now, I'm not saying production should be disregarded. I think if you're putting up the productions, eventually you're going to get recognized, and James Harden got recognized. He won the MVP.
So you think rings, what would you rank more? Just a side question,
I think
production or
rings
accomplishments?
determine, I think if you add rings to an argument, it really
strengthens.
It really comes into head to head. Who's greater? Who's greater? For example, I guess we could use who. People say D Wade is better than James Harden, right? People say that, and you hear all the time. And what do they say? The same thing. You saw D Wade at his best on the best stage of them all, right? Say D Wade 2006. That's all they bring up because that's all. And we all know if James Harden gets one, he eclipses D Wade. Everybody knows that. You think James Harden eclipsed him already?
I
but
think that's true.
Most people think if James Harden gets the one, and I agree. If James Harden gets the one, because he already has the MVP, he already has the All NBA teams, which is important.
Scoring record.
He has the scoring number. He
Assists.
has everything. He just doesn't have that ring, which in reality,
I don't
it
think
puts
that's
you
fair.
over the top. And I don't think it's fair because it's not fair because some organizations don't put the necessary pieces, or sometimes it's just unfair. You run into the super teams, injuries,
Anything
so
could
to say.
happen.
But great players make it work. And if you're that great, you find a way to make it work eventually. Eventually, you got to find a way to make it work. At least, we're not even asking James Harden, just get there. We're just at least ask him just to get there, just to at least get to one as the man and say, yeah, I got there. Yeah, I lost, but I got there, and I put on a show.